Hi, I'm Donnie Bubeng, and welcome to yet another episode of Life Lived in Purpose. Now, today I will be talking about how being on the journey of purpose will require some confidence on your part. Yes, you will need to be confident in who you are, in your gifts, your talents, your calling, anything that God is requiring you to do on your purpose-driven journey. Now, why do I say this? I say this because the purpose requires you to be confident in who you are and who God is calling you to be. Purpose requires you to also be confident in who God specifically created you to be. Remember, God didn't make a mistake when he created you. Actually, he knew perfectly well what he was calling you to, and he created you specifically for your purpose, your calling, your destiny, especially in any time or season of your life. So some of you may already know what God is calling you to. You may have felt this leading your entire life. For others, this might be new to you, and you need a little confidence in maybe having to start over in something new that may be lacking. You may not have had in the beginning once you decided rather to start your purpose-driven journey. So yes, it will be frightening for some of us, especially depending on the role or the career you had before. For example, I'm coming from a low-key career as a pharmacist. There was no training ground for what I'm doing now today. I had no background of being a speaker, an author, anything like that. I just went to work and did my job as a pharmacist. There was no opportunity to speak, write, or do anything like that. So now here I am being pulled out of my comfort zone, and I'm doing YouTube videos or even writing books or blogging, which is completely new to me. As such, I am now having to pull myself away from my comfort zone that I've been used to for so long, and having myself now to being open to being reinvented, and now to doing things that are completely out of my comfort zone. So yes, when you walk on your purpose-driven journey, especially if you decide to start over again with God, let it be known, not in any way to scare you or to throw you off for any particular reason, but it may require more confidence in yourself than ever before. But you know what? That's okay. Why so, you may be asking? Because remember, like Moses moving from the back of the desert to speak to an entire nation of Egyptians about, what God needed from them to do. That was not easy for him either. That was no walk in the park. In fact, he was trying to talk himself out of it. He didn't think he was qualified enough to do what God was calling him to do. And so he himself struggled with being confident in himself and his abilities to communicate effectively with the Egyptians. Now, if you take a look at that scenario for a moment, you will see some familiarity with Moses and even yourself. It's no different. You're not going to feel qualified at all for the life, destiny, and purpose that God has for you or God is calling you to. You will actually talk your way out of it like I did. You will question it several times over like I did. And you will wrestle with God with the decision of pulling you out of your comfort zone to do what? Speak in front of you like I'm doing now, right? So here's the difference, and something you should take note of on your own journey as well. That no matter what, God is going to prepare you for your journey. And also be reminded, tell yourself that you're a beloved child of God. He didn't make a mistake, when he called you to do something great for him in whatever capacity he's calling you to do it. You don't need degrees, training, or everything else the world is calling you to acquire before you even do what God is calling you to do. Yes, those things may be helpful. They will help us to learn, to grow, and to also sometimes be more confident in ourselves. But do we really need all that stuff to do what is required of us? Absolutely not. In fact, we just need to tell God yes. He's just waiting for a yes from Him. He does not ever call the equipped people to do His will. We are aware of that. He rather equips the called with the gifts, talents, and abilities that are already on the inside of you. You may not know it as yet, but you are already naturally prepared to do God's will, whether you have a speaking certification or not. The goal is to be ready, open, and available for God to train you and equip you on your journey of purpose and destiny. Now, how do I know this? You may be asking yourself. I don't have a fancy speaking degree or anything like that. I was just committed to stepping out and speaking, even in the midst of my own personal insecurities. Yes, I'm aware of them, and we all have those insecurities. We're not immune to them, and they do rear their ugly heads. Don't get me wrong, every now and again, I am reminded they do come out and rear their ugly heads to tell me that I'm not qualified enough, I'm not good enough, or that I need this maybe speaking certification or any fancy degrees and knowledge before I'm able to do what God is calling me to. Now, here's what is interesting about even disqualifying yourself and your divine God-given abilities. You're saying to God that He made a mistake with how He created you and that you're flawed. When truth be told, you are an amazing masterpiece that He spent a lot of time intricately designing specifically to carry out your purpose and mission here on this earth. So you're not a mistake at all. You're 100% made in the image of God. And as such, the only requirement for you on your journey of purpose is to be open and readily available to be led by God on your journey. Don't worry about the minor details. Just surrender to the process and be fully aware that you already have what it takes to carry out your purpose, your journey. The only difference is the confidence, the confidence to be who God is calling you to be and not to shy away from it at all. Accept it. Accepting it is actually accepting who you are and who God made you to be. So don't shy away from it. Rather, embrace it wholeheartedly. And I can guarantee you that you will be amazed at just how stepping out of your comfort zone and doing weird or strange things that you may think is weird or strange, it's actually liberating. You get freedom. Once you accomplish something, you're more confident in yourself and actually able to do it and continue on your journey of purpose and destiny. So, for example, I probably have said this a million times before. If you've watched my previous videos, I am 100% an introvert, or so I thought. I am an introvert. And that means for introverts, doing even this YouTube video or podcasting, whatever it is God is calling me, it was never my thing. You could not before get me to do this. And I struggled with myself doing this. I fight God doing this. I fight everybody and try to talk my way out of not doing it. But actually, I was no different from Moses. I was like Moses. I did all of that to no avail. However, when I did my first video and released it and I got amazing feedback, I realized that, you know what, it was just all in my head. It's not as bad as I thought before. I'm a speaker, I'm a podcaster, an author, and a blogger. So now I'm more confident in who I am, and I don't need to be afraid to embrace myself and who I am anymore. So as a matter of fact, the title that I placed on myself as being an introvert, it was just my way of keeping myself from the route of actually exposing myself and my giftings to the world. So I'm no longer going to identify with that label anymore. And I gave myself, before that, I'm now going to just be confident, in who I am. And I'm more of an extrovert. I'm called to speak my truth to the world, and the world needs to hear my truth, and also to follow God in my calling, my leading, and the purpose God has on my life, no matter what. So confidence is therefore the thing that defines our willingness and ability to be available to God as a vessel for his glory here on earth. So with knees shaking and all of that, listen, it really doesn't matter anymore what people think or even say about you. That's not your problem. All you need to do is to be fully confident that God didn't make a mistake when he called you to write that book, perform in that musical, play that sport, or be a doctor. He made no mistake, and therefore, you don't need to disqualify yourself, because even before you even ever started doing what he's calling you to do, don't ever disqualify yourself. Just trust God, trust the process, and trust that he has the best for you in whatever season of your life. Sometimes things happen in our lives that, also affect our confidence. Maybe you didn't feel like you did well in a school play at one point, or anything that you thought you failed at, even though it's your gift or what God is calling you to do. But be reminded that one event, scenario, or failure does not disqualify you from continuing on your purpose-driven journey of purpose and destiny. Failures are just a part of the process, and it's like a teaching ground. If you look at it from that scenario, it's teaching you sometimes, maybe not to embarrass you in any way or cause you any harm, but sometimes failure is just, it may be for your good. Because failure actually helps us sometimes to also navigate the right doors rather than help actually hurting us in any way. So if you approach every failure, closed doors, any obstacles in your way as a blow to your confidence, then let's look at it as from a different angle. And let's say maybe it was supposed to happen so that you would be able to navigate that path better, improve on a skill, or anything related to your journey. So your failure will never, ever define who you are. Your confidence is all that you need, all that you have, even in the midst of failure, which happens to the best of us. So remember, once again, your calling is irrevocable. So no failure, no past experience, or anything catastrophic happening in your life will ever take away who you are and who God made you to be and who God is calling you to be. So your goal is only to just remain on the path that God has planned for you to remain on. So also, even those days that you just wish you could have a makeover, we all have those days. I've had those days before. Just be reminded that it's just a day. Your future, it's still there. It's still there waiting on you to continue. You have the choice. You have to make that decision, just like Moses did, just like Daniel, who they both had to face giants, and they were fearful as well. But just know that no matter what happens, God is still on the throne, and he will make all things come together for our good. So that's the peace that you need. Use that as a weapon, actually, that when you fear doing something that may be scary up front or frightening or whatever it is, that know that if it's what God is calling you to do, it's going to be okay. There's nothing to fear about. It's going to be okay. So thank you once again for tuning into another episode of Life Lived in Purpose. If you haven't already grabbed a copy of my book, A Balanced Life, Moving from a Dysfunctional Life to a More Purposeful One, please do so. This book was written to help anyone who has ever struggled with dysfunction in your life, and you may have thought that it was normal. But remember, dysfunction is not normal, not with a life lived with God. And it rather signifies that you are probably on the wrong path that God is calling you to live. So also be sure, if you haven't as yet gotten a copy of my memoir, I Am Who God Says I Am, always be inspired to live the life God has planned for you. The link is in the description box below for both my books. So until next time, I do thank you all for watching. Bye.